Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Tea with Chroma. I'm your host, Kris, and today our co-host is also here. She did not skip out on this episode.
I tried to, but I couldn't.
We have Emma here with us today from across the Pacific Ocean. So, today, our episode is similar to our 100th episode, but this time Emma chose the show, and it's called The Magicians.
I sure did.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize it because it was a show that I had watched with her on accident one time, and she was like, "Do you mind if I watch this show? Because I don't think you'll ever watch it." And then, don't know what happened. Honestly, I don't even know when that episode happened when I actually watched it. So I don't know what I watched with Emma that day. I thought it was The Magicians, but I don't know. So yes, we're here. We're talking about The Magicians. Before we get started, let's do our tea check-in. So Emma, what you drinking today?
I'm actually drinking tea today. This one's for you, Jeffrey. I'm drinking, it says authentic green tea. So far in Japan, I like the hot green tea. I like the hot teas. This is like the place to drink it if you're going to drink tea. But at the convenience store, they sell like these green teas that are refrigerated and things like that. And so far, I haven't found one that I like yet. So I picked up another one. Yep, still tastes like the other ones. I don't know why I did it. It's like, it's fine. It's just like, I'm so used to American teas when it's cold and sweet. And this one literally just tastes like when you let your green tea sit out for too long. And it gets cold.
So didn't they let it like room temp and then refrigerate it? Or just like when you refrigerate green tea, that's just what it tastes like?
I have no idea because I've never refrigerated green tea too. I also like don't like when I also am someone who's like an intense steeper. So I just kind of like let it to sit in there, which I know you're not supposed to. I know you're supposed to just like steep and then take out the bag. So that's usually why I get that like gross taste whenever I do it. So yeah. Still not my favorite. I'm still looking for more that I might like eventually. But what are you drinking today, Kris?
Today, I am trying a turmeric tea from The Tea Heaven. I don't know what this is going to be like. I've never had a turmeric tea. I don't even know what turmeric is. I think it's an herb. It might be a root.
It is a root. It's like turmeric, just like I'm going to put a plug in there for turmeric. It's really good for joints, joint health. People say that whenever they have like joint pain and things like that, they usually do like a ginger turmeric. I usually generally hear turmeric with ginger. And if I'm not mistaken, there's not generally a taste to it. It's just kind of yellow. Is your tea yellow?
Yeah, it's like a deep yellowy orange. So I don't know. But it was like caffeine free and it's kind of late. So I don't want a caffeinated tea.
I know people usually do like turmeric and ginger shots, like for wellness. So how does it taste?
I think I know why they put the ginger, though.
Oh, is there ginger in there?
No, there isn't in this one. But I could see why people would. Because I would imagine the turmeric's kind of like, meh. And then the ginger's like, spicy.
Spicy.
But also healthy or whatever. But yeah, that was the point. This one's supposed to be an immunity booster and things like that. So, cool. Antioxidants, amino acids. That's this tea.
All the good things. That's the tea.
All the good things. That's the tea with the turmeric tea.
So, today we are going to be discussing The Magicians. Some background. Again, Kris picked the 100, and it took me a little while to watch the 100. He had always talked about it, so I finally watched it. And so he was like, okay, fine. Like, you can pick the next show I watch. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I just finished watching The Magicians. Maybe you'll like it, and you'll see his final rating at the end and how he feels about it. But that is why we decided to watch it. But he finished it a lot more recently than I did. I think I finished it in the beginning of the year, and I started watching it because Isaac really liked it, and I had accidentally watched the last season with him, not knowing who any of the people were. And so the entire time I was watching the show, I was like, I knew what was going to happen. And so, yes. So Kris is going to give us our brief overview about the show.
So in The Magicians, there's magic. And people know how to do magic. And they go to this school that's, I think, maybe in New York. It's really hard to tell. And there they learn how to do magic. But it's not like Hogwarts, where it's like fun magic. and we're magicians now. It's,
You're a wizard, Harry.
yeah, it's not that. It's kind of like what I would imagine if you discovered magic in college and everyone sucked. So that's the magicians. And then at one point, they go to a storybook land that was real, but it was a book. And yeah, it just gets weirder from there. It's very mythologically driven, but in a very abstract interpretation is the best, like a very loose adaptation of mythology. Not a complete rendition, just kind of picking and choosing characters.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting show. It's on the Netflix. But yeah, finish the episode if you want to know how we finally rate it. With that, we'll start getting into the more specific parts, like who is your favorite character? To review, there are a lot of characters. And I don't know who the main characters are, but the top billed actors and actresses on there are named Julia, Elliot, Penny, Margot, Alice, Quentin, Katie, and sometimes Fen, but definitely all the other people that I mentioned. And then there's like a bunch of other people that are in a lot of the episodes, but I would say, I guess like that's the core group.
So from the core group, I think my favorite is definitely Penny. He's the traveler. Also, yeah, if you would like to pause the episode, if you haven't watched it yet, go ahead and pause. And then...
Because spoilers,
Yeah, because there's going to be spoilers and we're just going to drop them. And it's been a while since the last episode came out, so...
You've had time.
So yeah, I think my favorite out of the core is Penny. And because, I really feel for Penny. As much of an a-hole as he is, he's the most useful character in this entire show. He's a traveler, which means he can, go beyond the realms, all these different things. And he's, trying to learn how to harness his powers and, also trying to learn how to, do it in a way that is...
Not gonna kill him.
Not gonna kill him or the people he cares about. Which he's, also one of those characters that, tries to keep a distance from everyone. But then is, spoiler alert, the first Penny that dies is, upset when no one is sad about him. But he was such an a-hole that it's why would anyone be sad when you were so mean? Now, Penny 2.0, loved Penny 2.0. I thought that it was such a great arc for him. And then even when Penny in the underground, I just really enjoyed seeing his character development. My least favorite, but my favorite outside character is definitely Fen. She's a BA. Love her. She's a little dumb, but she gets things done. You know, she just a little bit dumb. Least favorite character is any of the gods. Any and all of them as a whole. They were just useless, not helpful at all, which kind of reminds me of the way that we've interpreted gods in the past. You know, they kind of just do things at their own whim and for their entertainment. And so I felt they did a really good job with that. But anytime a god came up, I was oh, here we go. Here we go. It's not going to be anything good.
Ever. Truly wasn't.
What about you? Who is your favorite character?
I think out of the core group, it's rather predictable. It's definitely Margot. And I think...
Why?
I think after... The first season was really awkward for all of the characters. But I think from season 2 on, the way she kind of came into her character was truly hysterical. And it was very feminist in a weird, modern, intriguing way. It was just, I don't know, she did it and it was comical and I enjoyed her character. And then my least favorite of the group was Quentin. Because he was terrible.
He was also so whiny. Was he not so whiny?
And he whined about everything. Nothing ever went his way. And he was just you would think he was that person who was set up to be happy when he gets magic, and then he gets magic, and then he whines about magic. I'm oh my god, this is never gonna end with him. He
had beforehand been, remember he was in the mental institution? And then comes out, so everyone's okay, he's mentally ill. Cool. Comes out and is now you have magic. Oh, BT dub, that book that you grew up loving, which I would say is the equivalent to Chronicles of Narnia almost.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's true.
Yeah, it was very knockoff of Chronicles of Narnia.
It was like low budget Narnia. And it was like, BT Dubs, Fillory is true. And then he's like going into Fillory and then he like hates Fillory. It's like, bruh, everything is set up in your favor, white set male, to be just like a favorable time. And yet,
I don't know if I would call him heterosexual though.
Oh, you're right. Cis curious.
I don't know.
Even not even curious.
That was fully bi. Like, he lived a full bi life.
Oh, that was one of my favorite episodes.
Oh.
Can we talk about that for a second? Let's talk about a good episode. So, like, again, there's, like, a lot of, like, time realms, universes, all these different, like, timelines existing together. And in one of the timelines, Quentin and Elliot, who is, like, the main, like, LGBT character, gay character in the show, they, like, end up in this timeline together trying to solve this mystery. And as their time is going along,
Quentin finds a woman.
A woman, yes.
Has a child with said woman.
Mm-hmm.
Woman dies.
Yes. When they were, like, kind of young, right?
Yeah, the lady, they were all still pretty young. And then...
It's a child in Quentin and Elliot.
Yeah. And then, Quentin and Elliot just become lovers, but, like, in a very romantic, caring for each other in the middle of a farm, in the middle of nowhere, by themselves for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, stuck in a universe. And, like, I think the most heartbreaking part was when they come back to their universe, like, their main timeline, and Quentin goes up to Elliot and is like, let's do the thing. Like, we've done it. Like, we lived a whole ass life where we had hundreds of years together. Like, who says that it can't work now? And Elliot basically says no. Because
it's a sabotage thing. It's not like Elliot was being terrible. He was just like, I'm not worthy.
It was a self-sabotage moment, but it was, like, also one of those things where, like, you got to see their entire life in that brief episode. And it was just like, you see these two men who, like, have been best friends up until this point, and then all of a sudden, like, now they're, like, taking care of each other and, like, loving each other, and then one of them dies, and you just, like, see that happen, and you're like, oh my god, like, now he has to bury him and figure out the puzzle on his own.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any favorite episodes?
Margot's Lost in the Desert one, with all the singing.
Oh my god, the singing.
I truly thought it was hilarious, and I really enjoyed the Don't Get Me Wrong song that they were singing. It was really cute.
I do enjoy a musical episode, but I felt like they had, like, they never had, like, a truly, like, musical episode until that one. But they did always kind of, like, there was that time when they were singing, and then when Elliot was singing Les Mis on his way to battle.
Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, these were not, like, I don't know. They were musical episodes and moments that just, like...
What?
Wait, we're singing now? Is this a singing show? We're doing this? And they would sing, and everyone would sing, and I don't know, they made everybody sing, not even, and they could not. Like, it was kind of like I signed up to act, and it was too late, it was in your contract, so now when they were like, great, we're doing a Les Mis episode, you couldn't be like, no, I don't want to. It was just like, well, we're doing it, and then you couldn't be like, oh, I can't sing. That's fine, we'll figure it out. They didn't auto-tune, they just let them sing. They just let them sing.
It was like if you had turned your life into a musical and had no voice lessons beforehand, and all of a sudden now we're like, oh, by the way,
this is what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Like your shower or car karaoke, but like,
but in front of a camera for the rest of Netflix to see. One of the things that we just kind of talked about was like the mythology and like Greek gods and like, I mean, not just Greek gods, but just like gods and goddesses in general. And I know that you are someone who like truly likes mythology. I also do. I think I dabble in it more than you do. Like, you're into it. So did you like their interpretation of the gods and their realms?
No, I thought it was weird. I thought the whole show was weird, but
we'll get into that.
No. It was odd. I didn't know what to think. It was confusing because they made some gods out of like their own mythology, but then they borrowed some, and they didn't even borrow all. So they were just borrowing like random gods from random mythologies and making them do kind of random things. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It was weird. Did
you have an interpretation that you liked?
I didn't really care for the god characters overall. Not for necessarily like the same reason. I think the god characters led to some moments that made me really uncomfortable in the show.
Mm.
And I don't know, it was kind of unnecessary. It was just weird. I don't know. It was a weird part of the show. So, I mean, it wasn't terrible, but I don't know. It's kind of like a lazy interpretation of them, too. They were just kind of like, this is...
Here's the god! And he's gonna cause havoc. Here we go.
Mm-hmm. They were both, like, powerful and useless. It was weird.
At the same time, it was so weird. It was like, can't they just, like, fix everything that's going wrong? And then they were like, no, you've, like, angered them. So, like, in the way that I feel like we learn about mythology and how, like, you know, again, everyone's at their whim. It really felt like that. Like, they were, like, petty gods. Like, they were, like...
Truly petty.
Like the most petty you could get, like, oh, well, y'all killed her, so now I'm gonna go and be depressed in New York in my apartment with my boxes of pizza. Like, Hades, get it together. You need to go back to the underground.
Mm-hmm. Or that one of the many goddesses that Julia, like, interacted with, and she, like, asked her for a favor, and she's like, only one. But she's like, wait. So you could do the other things that I'm asking you to do? She's like, yeah, totally could. But you're just not going to. No, that's not how it works. And then she just went away. Like, I was just like, what the?
And it's also one of those things, too, where, like, this is what it must feel like to be an eternal being. Like, you've been alive for centuries at this point, and you're like, y'all all kind of suck. Like, this is not it. Like, I'm stuck here. Can we just, like, kill me off? Like, would that be possible?
I'm just like, these are the rules. I don't remember why we established them, but there was probably a good reason. So, like, no, I can't help you. There's a one-time only rule. Like...
It's not a genie. I'm not a genie. Which kind of, like, lent them to be villains in a lot of cases. Some of them were, you know, like, non-villains, but most of the time they ended up being, like, a typical villain. But did you have, like, a favorite villain? I know I definitely had a favorite villain who, like, had a great arc.
No, I don't think that I did have a favorite villain. I think half the time I felt like the main characters were their own villains.
Facts.
And didn't really need a villain because they were setting themselves back.
Every time. Like, it was like as if you had 6 people working on a group project, and the project could have gone well because you had Alice, who was the smartest person in the world. You know, you had Margot, who was also equally smart. Margot and Julia, who could, like, have easily helped. You had Katie, who was the muscle, you know, like, had all the things to be in there. But, like, my favorite villain was the Fairy Queen.
I never considered her a villain.
No, really?
Mm-mm.
She was not nice.
When did you consider her a villain?
When she was taking over Fillory.
I didn't even consider her a villain then.
No?
Mm-mm.
I just thought she was so badass, though.
Because it just never seemed... They never set her up as, like, the main person they were dealing with.
Yeah. She was always kind of like that background person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, like, never, like... Again, just like, they had rules, and she just had to follow the rules, you know? There's just... Fairies just had rules, and these are the fairy rules.
which I think, like, lent itself that when she did break the rule, it was like, that's why it was such a big deal that she broke the rule.
Mm-hmm.
When she had to, like, break the promise, right? In order to free them or something.
Yep. And then I guess you also have to consider the fact that, like, she was only being like that because the 6 were constantly messing stuff up.
And she was like, could you all just, like, keep it together?
Literally constantly. It was non-stop. They were always messing stuff up for other people. Yeah. So I did not interpret her as the villain, just like someone who was tired of their ridiculous antics and said, stop.
As it was happening, I was like, oh my god, she's so evil. But then, like, thinking about it from, like, a ruler standpoint, everything that she was doing was to, like, keep her fairy people safe.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Yeah. Okay. Were there any interesting themes or topics that you'd like to discuss?
They had a weird relationship with, like, the show had a really weird relationship with, like, mental health issues. But I wouldn't say they did it well.
Now that I'm, like, thinking about it, they never had, like, a trigger warning for anything, yeah?
No.
Yeah.
They didn't. And
it was...
No, and I did not appreciate that. It was just, like, wild stuff would happen. Mm-hmm. And then they would have if you need resources for da-da-da-da-da at the end of episodes, because the episodes would just be out of left field. Mm-hmm. Terrible.
Yeah. So that's also, like, a warning too, like, if you're gonna watch the show. I think it should also be stated.
And I don't even know where to be like, oh, it's in this episode, because it was just, like, random.
Yeah.
There were at least 4 episodes, I think. At least 4. And they were closer to the earlier, like, seasons 1 and 2. Because there was definitely an episode that I almost stopped watching. Like, I almost stopped watching the whole show. In season 1, I think, where it's just like, no, this was way too much. Like, this...
Yeah. That was one of their big criticisms, was that they or that the fact that they had to show anything. Like, there were so many things, there are so many shows that do a great job of addressing the issue without showing the issue. Like, there's no need to have the abuse on there. So again, trigger warning, there's sexual abuse, sexual assault, things in there that are just where did this even move the plot? What does this have to do with the plot?
It was really aggressive and really graphic, and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't like it. That's my, so no, there were moments that I think after they got away from that with the rest of the show, closer to the end of season 2 and the rest of it, where they just kind of avoided stuff like that. And I don't know if it was on purpose. I know you go on Reddit and follow along in that way, but I just kind of watched the show. I just noticed that there was a marked difference in the tone of the show. And so
it was very dark in those first 2 seasons.
And I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna finish this. But the last seasons were really fun.
Them just trying to save the world half the time and then failing every single time.
Miserably. Just low-key comically.
They would fix one issue and then they were actually, that wasn't the main issue. Now the world is going to blow up. And they're like, wait, what? But I just,
Why is it like this? Oh, it's actually because the problem that you thought you solved was not actually the real problem.
Because half the time, because, the viewers are watching it and they're like, yes, they figured it out. And then they're like, that wasn't the problem. And I was like, how would we know? How would we know until we stop the other one?
I don't know. There's some moments where I'm like, y'all starting the problem. Y'all making this worse.
And it's one of those things, again, where you have 6 people working on a project and all 6 of them don't know what the project is. They
all choose the wrong answer actively and aggressively.
Every single time. Okay, so as you can tell from this one, I am very passionate about this show. Kris is not. So we're going to hear our final grades and scores. Final score, Kris. Give it a Yelp review.
I think if I did it in pieces, season 1 and 2, I would not recommend. Don't watch them. Mostly because it's not that they were bad seasons. It's just, I'm not going to be out here recommending stuff and then getting text messages talking about this scene just happened and now I'm triggered and it brought up things for me and all this other. So no, I wouldn't recommend the first 2 seasons at all. But season 3, 4, and 5 were actually not bad at all. So those ones were fine. You kind of miss some stuff. I think really in seasons 1 and 2, you just kind of miss Quentin complaining through the topics on the episodes. But otherwise, 3, 4, and 5. If I had to give it an overall rating, I would say no. The trigger warnings are significant enough, or the lack thereof of trigger warnings and the depictions of those things are aggressive enough for me to say, no, I would not recommend this to a friend. Especially if I did not know them very well.
True. That's very true. Yeah, that's very valid. So, final score? 5 stars?
2 stars. There were some real strong moments and some very strong characters, but the bad things are very bad.
I didn't, as someone who, watched it and then, the bad things happened and stuff, it wasn't until I had recommended it to Kris and then he was like, what the F is going on? That I was like, oh wait, I should probably stop recommending the show as readily as I do, because he brought up very good points. You don't know who you're accidentally triggering by telling them that they should watch this show. So after that, being cognizant of it, I would still give it a 3 out of 5. When I first watched it, I was like, oh my god, this show is just Hogwarts and Narnia grown up, and things like that. But yeah, there were some definitely really intensely triggering episodes. And so I would, lower my rating for that, just because, again, the episodes didn't have trigger warnings in them for you to be like, oh, I can skip this one. And there were things in there that were I feel like you could probably skip 1 and 2, do a brief Wikipedia search and be like, this is what happened, moving on, So you could watch it, and I feel like it's almost 2 separate shows. Like seasons 1 and 2 were definitely grouped together, and then 3 to 5, were like a whole different thing. Like you said, like you could tell that there was a shift in tone, which I wonder then if there was a shift in like directors and producers maybe, or maybe there was enough backlash. I have no idea. So,
because I didn't watch it in real time.
And I didn't either. I think Isaac was the only one that watched it in real time. So would I recommend this to a friend? Probably not, after what had happened this last time of me recommending it. And again, like me just not being cognizant of those things. With that being said, watch at your own discretion.
Mm-hmm. And don't text me about it because I did not recommend it to you.
You can text me about it. I will unpack that entire show with you. So, in true fashion, at the end of every episode, we end with a rapid fire question.
Pew, 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 pew. Just kidding.
That was so cute. Pew, pew.
Pew, 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 pew. Little mini air horn. Like, pew, pew, pew. That's me. Oh my gosh. Well, do you have your question ready? Because I do
have my question ready. So, is there a number that is like significant to you? Or what's your favorite number and why?
3. I just like the way it counts. It just counts really easily. And then I learned that like if you add up the numbers and it equals a number that's divisible by 3, it's divisible by 3.
Yeah.
I just like it. It's just, I don't know. Also, it's a little more challenging than like 2. Because like, I don't know. I feel like everyone's like stereotypical ones are like, oh, I like 1 or 2 or 5. They're easy to count by. I'm like 3.
That is so funny because like my favorite numbers are divisible by 3. And it's for that same exact reason because you can always add. So my favorite number is 21.
21.
Reasoning is because, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm about to expose myself on the internet like this. But when I was in 6th grade, there was a baseball team that had won like the baseball championships for Hawaii. Like they were like little league. And I thought he was so cute. I was in 6th grade. And his number was 21. And then later on that year, I don't know if you understand how soccer works, but usually the bigger sized people get higher numbers in like, the public soccer teams. So I was also number 21. And I was like, oh my God, we're meant to be. I was also in 6th grade again, but it kind of stuck with me. And that was always like, I was always number 21 in soccer. And so 21 like kind of became my number, but I had always just loved things that were divisible by 3, and then 2 plus 1 equals 3, and 3 is like, so when Isaac and I had kids, it's gonna be like in multiples of 3. Like I can't just have 1. Like I'm gonna need to have 3 or 6, not 9, not 12.
3 or 6.
I'm too old to have 9 or 12. I think I might actually be too old to have 6 at this point. So yeah. So that was like my whole reasoning. I also like things that are divisible by 3. It's just clean. It just I love it when it just ties up nicely. It's a nice little bow.
It's a little selective though, because it's not all the numbers.
Exactly.
It's a little more selective than 2.
Exactly.
Not as predictable as 5.
Yep. Facts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's your question?
Just random things. Oh my god.
Things that satisfy us.
Oh my gosh. My question is, what is your favorite room in a house? Like what room really just brings you peace or joy or happiness or energy? You just love being in that room.
I like all the rooms. I would have to say like the dining room. I think I have like ties to dining rooms. Like it's like where you eat, it's where you commune. Whenever I think of like fondly of like my childhood and stuff like that, I think of Sunday dinners on my aunt's house, and it like all took place in the dining room. Like that's where all the action was. And then after we ate, like everything would go away, and then the Scrabble board would come out. And so I was like not old enough to play the Scrabble, but it was like such like a point of like this sparks joy to me. I love the idea of like sharing a meal together in a room that's like intentional. But yeah, what about you?
I would say my favorite room is the bathroom.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. You thought you had my answer, and then
Do
I
not?
switched it up on you. Yeah, it's the kitchen.
Yeah. You guys can't see it because obviously we're a podcast, but he was like, it is, and I had mouthed it as he said bathroom, and I was like, hold on. You jerk.
I would like to meet someone whose favorite room is the bathroom, just to like figure out why. But
it's a tranquil place.
We gonna agree to disagree, but okay. So it's the kitchen, but it's because I like to cook and bake and be creative, and that's like my spot. That's my zone. That's where I do stuff. So yes,
Give us a meal that you've just made recently that it was like chef's kiss.
Well, recently with a coworker, we made quinoa bowls.
Yum.
And they were really good. So actually we've made like 2 things recently. So like one weekend we made spaghetti and marinara sauce.
Did you just make the marinara from scratch?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And then we made quinoa bowls, and there's a lot of ingredients with these quinoa bowls. I think they could be made much simpler. But we just went all the way. Mm-hmm. So we had like different bell peppers and onions, and they were sauteed. And then we had olives and feta cheese.
Yeah.
And then we had
like a Mediterranean quinoa bowl.
Basically, we just took a bunch of stuff. Chickpeas were in there, roasted chickpeas and roasted tomatoes. And then we had brownies and ice cream.
Sweet. I know. I like cooking with Kris because whenever he tries a recipe, he like goes all in on the first one, and then that's where he makes his notes for the next time. So I always like really did appreciate that, because I'd be over there, I'm like, we don't need that much stuff. He's like, no, follow the recipe the first time, and then we make adaptations. And I'm like, I mean, I guess. But then this is also the same person who, like, when he bakes, does not measure anything out and then wonders why things didn't come out. I'm like, this is not cooking, it's chemistry. Like, it needs to have an exact science. And he's like, that looks like about a cup. And I'm like, that's not a cup. What are you doing?
You know, that's why my cakes come out funny.
Strengths and weaknesses.
I can make peanut butter cookies, but anything else, it's kind of a toss-up.
Oh, those peanut butter cookies hit. Hit.
Side note, Netflix, if you want to recruit me for Nailed It, I'm just saying, I'm here, I'm available, I can clear my schedule, we can make it work.
We will clear it.
I'll be on season 7, because they just released season 6.
Oh my
gosh. Or 5.
And we just love you, Nicole Byer.
So I'm just saying. But anyways, Emma, where can people find the podcast?
You can find our podcast on Twitter and Instagram at The Tea with Karma. You can also find us on Venmo if you'd like to support our work and possibly buy us a cup of tea at The Tea with Karma. You can stream our podcast anywhere that you stream your pods, such as Apple, Spotify, Stitcher.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's it, right?
Maybe YouTube one day.
And possibly we're looking at YouTube. We'll see. But we'll see you next time. Bye!